about uh, just what we're seeing on Substack in terms of what has to be a strategy. I would assume it certainly doesn't appear to be accidental. And what we're talking about is how Substack seems to be embracing mainstream media, but calling it new media. And so, with that, Egberto, I will turn it over to you. You have an excellent piece that I read, and there was a term that you used that I thought pretty much summed up the lay of the land, and the word was gentrification. And I
Yeah,
thought that was interesting.
first of all, thank you for having this little chat with me, Marlon, because I think it's important. I mean, it's not a Substack, the lords of Substack issue, or even the reporters and pundits and all of that who are starting to find refuge at Substack. Remember, let's remember something that's very important. We found Substack as a place where most of the writers or a large percentage of the writers at Substack are professional at something that they've done. And they have used that, many times they've said, you know what? I'm done with my profession. I want to do something positive. In my case, I came to the United States from a Central American country, Panama, went to the University of Texas, was an activist there, did a whole lot of politics there, and put that on the low side when I joined corporate America and did a whole lot of other work, but always had that instinct for politics. And as our politics devolved into an autocracy, etc., my goal was well, look, I have a daughter. You have kids, Marlon.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to make this a better place. And while I complain and complain and complain, I remember one night just saying, you keep saying somebody should do something about this. Why the hell not you?
Mm-hmm.
And that is just what came into my head. And people think I am BSing when I'm talking about this, but it's real. And, I had a software company and I gave that up to come into full political activism and journalism and, and found different platforms. The first one that really showed a problem in this country is when I left my software business, it was partially altruistic, but also that I could make a dollar to support the family still, because at that time, I had paid off my bills. My website was pulling in enough cash not YouTube, but from Google ads and Facebook ads and all of that. It was doing great. In one day, Marlon, I don't think I told you this story. In one day, I lost 90% of my income after Facebook and Google and all of them changed your algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
90% of my income was gone. So here it is. You give up your company, all that good stuff for a new positivity of making the world a better place. And then corporate America screws you. And then there was this new model that came along. And this new model followed the pattern of Substack. We could now write professionally on the subjects you know about. You are an expert in finance. And in fact, if we look at your work, Marlon, I told you about this. I'm like, hey, Marlon, you are a rising star. You are number 13 in the entire Substack. The thousands upon thousands of people. You are 13 in giving us that information that people find reliable. Number 13. So we found this platform, Marlon, and we started to say, well, you bring your audience, right? People who like what you do, who feel that they get a value out of what you provide. They feel, okay, I can give this person a coffee a month. I can give, and if we get a couple of thousand coffees a month, yeah, we can have a modest life and keep researching what you research in finance. what I do in politics, what I do in healthcare. We can do that. And it's great. And you had a lot of different independent folks like you and others doing that. That was beautiful. That was great. It was independent media. We had no lords. We had no overlords telling us you can't write about this drugs that killing people. You can't write about that, but we can. You can't. I mean, I've seen some of the stories that I've written on MSNBC. I've
Yeah.
seen, I've seen some of the folks when they've taken that. I've seen it, Marlon, and you have too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So now the media is shrinking. The mainstream media is shrinking. The media that's been corrupting people for a long time is shrinking. This media has been, the reason we have Trump is because of the mainstream media. The reason we have Trump is the mainstream media. The reason all of this is there is that we had people that the corporatocracy was saying, you can't say this, you can't say, nobody can tell Marlon what to do. Nobody can tell
I
Marlon
don't know,
what to
man.
write in
My
finance.
wife might disagree with you.
But you know what I mean. You know what
I
I mean.
know.
It's
I'm
like
kidding, man.
you
But
can
she's right
write
down the
and you
hall,
can
so
talk
I
the
had to
truth.
keep it real.
Right. You can talk about the stock market, Marlon. You can tell
Yeah,
what you're not going to hear on CNBC because you're free to do that. Well,
absolutely. Absolutely.
the mainstream media has decided that they want to downsize after a whole lot of these people have given us partial information, not the best information. And you and I have taken good information from some of these celebrity reporters. They try to do a good job, but we gave context to a lot of what they said because there's some things that they couldn't say that we were able to give context to. But guess what, Marlon? Guess what? And this is what our conversation is supposed to be about. Now that they are unloading a whole lot of these reporters, and these are good reporters, but they are in fact mainstream reporters, and you cannot expect a dog to change its skin or change its modal or modus operandi overnight. We've been here given that unbiased information, not run by a corporation saying you can say this, you cannot say this, you can say. We are beyond that. Now we have an influx of these folks coming in here. And you know what? Every single one that I recognize, Marlon, I've sent an invitation. I've
Mm-hmm.
said, welcome aboard. I would love to have a collaboration with you. In fact, I've written about you, and here are the blogs that I've written about the good work that you have done that I've expanded on. I have received a grand number of replies of that big donut. Zero.
Well, I have done something similar. Um, for one thing, and just a couple of points, I kind of exclude to some degree the legal folks that have come here because that is their expertise, and that is
Right.
why we know who they are.
Right.
Uh, at the same, and let's just park them over here for a second. At the same time, a number of these folks who have come onto the platform and just blown up, 10,000 paid subscribers. I mean, this is public information. And, but they're reporters.
Right.
They aren't experts. They're experts at reporting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my point of view was and I won't say who it was, but I reached out to someone a couple of months ago, actually, before they were let go from, cable news. And I said, look, I notice you're talking about X, Y, and Z a lot. I think I could be a resource, not necessarily even saying put me on TV, but I'm noticing some things that maybe need to be illuminated a little bit more. And here are my, bona fides or whatever. Like you said, crickets, no response. Now, I've come to recognize the reason for that is because there's somebody between them and the rest of the world. And I'm again not saying it's wrong, but that's, these folks have handlers, they have PR folks, et cetera. So then I thought, well, shoot, now that they're no longer with the network, maybe that might open a door. No, but you know what? Let's flip that around. Why, if you're a reporter, I'm going to use me as an example, and you look at the top 20 folks in finance, rising, whatever they call it, on this platform, and you see like, one little raisin standing out, because as far as I can tell, I'm the only Black person in the top 20. Why would you not say, huh, who's that guy? What makes that guy special? I don't know. It just seems to be, in my mind, a um, oh, I don't know. Maybe they're doing so well they don't think about this stuff anymore. I have I I don't hate them, because look, this is the system we have for people to take their notoriety or whatever it may be and capitalize on it. That's the system we got. I would probably do the same thing. I would like to think, however, that I might be a little curious. I would probably do the same thing. I would be a little curious about who the folks that are already here are. And what I see is when I'm looking at my feed and all of the stuff that comes across the top, it's like I'm looking at cable news. It's so and so and so and so. Well, I know those two guys. I used to watch them on CNN, and here's so and so and so and so talk. They're all just talking to each other. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but I do think there is a certain level of conversations like this that we need to have with um, the folks that jump in these live streams, potential subscribers, about, do you want to go to the reporter for your information, or do you want to go to the source? And
I
that's, to me, what the beauty of Substack was, is
Mhm.
that I know a little bit about a few things, and so there's no person between me and you, if you want to engage. It and the folks in my network and subscribers, I try to be pretty accessible, right? So you can DM certain people all day long, but you're not going to, some of these folks, they're not going to respond to you. But I try to be where people say, "Hey, I just saw so and so on CNBC. What does that mean?" Right? And a lot of times that's what drives what I write about, because I see the questions or the things that people are curious about, and I'm not. Hey, maybe if I had 10,000 paid subscribers, maybe maybe I'd be different, but I don't think I would.
I don't think you would. And let me tell you, you see, this Substack is a culture,
Hmm.
or we have we have a culture here at Substack where we collaborate. I saw you and I listened to you and I wanted to collaborate with you because I enjoyed what you did and I figured you had a lot to offer, not only my Substack audience, but my YouTube audience, my KPFT 90.1 FM audience. Every single one of the cross sections of my audience has know who Marlon Weems is now. They all know it because
I
when I
appreciate
learned,
that, by the way.
when I learned from you, I was able, and that's what I said, as a sponge, as I learn from others, I want the people who have faith in me to learn from those who have learned from. So I took all of the lives that we did, put it together, threw it up on the Pacifica network. You've been played on stations that I don't even know about because it's on what we call audio port on KPFT, right?
Okay.
So other stations just pick you up and play you. Okay. Now it's interesting because that is the type of relationships that we normally build at Substack. Now, when you bring stars in, and again, for the audience that's listening, I want this to be very, very clear because Marlon and I spoke about this in detail. We are holding no animosities or grudges towards those reporters coming to Substack. We think Substack is an open platform and everybody should have equal access to the platform. We have no animosity or whatever for Substack as a platform. Has to do what's best to maintain a platform, fund a platform, and ensure that it's viable. One of the reasons we are doing these types of lives and what we hope to accomplish here is for people to understand the metrics. And when I say understand the metrics, I mean about this. Let's look at all of the stars. And we're going to call the reporters that came from CNN and MSNBC and other places that let go and decided to put here in the platform. I'll call them the stars. They are stars because they were on network TV that everybody saw. And when they made millions of dollars there. And when they left, most of them got what we call in the industry golden parachutes. Mean we are paying you to leave because Donald Trump doesn't like you. All right. And that is the bottom line why a lot of these people are downsizing. They're really not downsizing. They're just changing. When Katie Fan got canned, she didn't get canned because, we're downsized. She got canned because she is one of the few that couldn't hold her tongue when she was telling the truth about the administration or about anybody else. She has joined Substack. I am going to contact her and see if we can collaborate because I use many of her I've cut many of her clips, used it, enhanced it, and brought it to my own audience. We love that type of collaboration. And that is what I would have been hoping from all of these new folks that are coming in. The stars collaborating with the actual folks that are professionals here. You are a professional in finance. I've become a professional in politics, engineering, and healthcare. We know what we're talking about. And the idea is reporters could get a lot out of us. I've heard many of the reporters laugh at certain types of healthcare methodologies. We could talk to them. They're reporters here now, and they could add to what they could learn from us, right? If they collaborated. But what I see, and this is the interesting part, Marlon, I see a clique. Yes, it's gentrification of Substack right now with the new folks that are coming in. But it's deeper than that. What I find is whereas anybody that's listening to me right now, anybody that's subscribed, paid or unpaid, to Egberto Off the Record, they can say, hey, man, I have something to talk about. They can drop me a DM on Substack. You got some time that we can have a 5-minute live or something? And I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. I do that in my YouTubes. I do that in my different platforms. Mm-hmm. You listen to my cuts on KPFT. It's about inclusiveness. It's about bringing people in because that is how you get this infrastructure, this ecosystem to work. If it's really a democratic ecosystem, that's how you get it to work. But what I saw with these new folks that are coming in, the stars, is star number 1 is having a live with star number 2. Star number 3 is talking to star number 1. Star number 4 is talking to pundit number 3. Pundit number 3 is talking to pundit number 4. It's the whole ecosystem in that we had in the mainstream media.
It's the system that for years I have heard people say they did not want. That they were here because they were trying to get away from that.
Yes, okay. You nailed it. And so what we need to do, or what my hope is to do, and I would love some of you that are listening here I'd love to see some commentary from some of the folks that are listening. I'm scrolling through to see if I see any commentary. But here's what I would hope to do, Marlon. I really, the people who subscribe to everybody are Substackers, right? And mm-hmm. In America, we do have a star strata type mentality. Wow, XYZ came over from MSNBC or from CNN. I am going to subscribe. I'm going to give them that $5 a month. And that is gone. That makes you feel a little closer to that person, I believe. I don't know. But when I see that yesterday, one person came on, a new person came on, and on that first day, they got 10,000 paid subscribers. I was like, wow, we have a millionaire that regular folk are continuing to ensure they're millionaires when there are hundreds of professional people here on Substack that simply say, hey, will you please consider supporting us with a coffee a month for giving you real info? Look at the posts that I've done today. And that's all
Mhm.
I'll ask those of you that are listening to me right now. Read the posts that I've done today, both the audio, the video, the summaries, and the in detail articles with verifiable information, link backs, etc. And then at the same time, please do the same with the stars that just came here. Take a look at the articles that they have written since they've been here at Substack. I ask you this with respect. Do the comparison. Read Marlon's articles. I read Marlon's articles. Read his articles. Look at the detail and the substance within these articles. And then look at the reporters at the stars that have come and what they've written. And the reason I'm saying that is, and please, I suggest that you take a look at the article that Marlon told you that I wrote, because I want folks to understand that this isn't about animosity. And I'm going to put that article in the chat if I can get that patch in. Yeah, I think
It's
I got.
actually in the chat room on
Yeah,
my Substack. I did it before, but
yeah. I
but
just
yeah,
added it as
it
well.
really is a good um
Start.
it's a beginning of the conversation. And
Right.
it crosses a lot of um you have this conversation, and I think necessarily you also have to be talking about paywalls. You have
Right.
to talk about, because there's some of these quote stars. Now look, um, you've got some economists on here that have recently, come aboard that are top notch. There's no
Right.
question.
Right.
Um, there are also some other people here that speak from a certain level of experience. I'm not an economist. Um, However, I've had some experiences and been around enough. Now, look, if you're wanting to drill deep into BLS, data and so forth, I'm not your guy.
Mm-hmm.
However, one of the things that I try to do, I call my newsletter Opinion with Receipts, right? So I dig into the data. I try to make as much of it free of charge. So I provide the links. I tell
Mm-hmm.
you what I think, what time it is, so to speak. And here's why: ABCD. And I, I, I have been having for almost the last week, a conversation with, just sort of out there on Substack about
Mm-hmm.
what do you do? Do you charge for every? I don't think the truth you should have to pay for.
Right.
You see, so my written content, as I sit here right now, will always be free to whoever wants to read it. And maybe down the line, I don't know, maybe the recording of this might be subscribers only, but that's not really so much to protect anything. That's more from my point of view to say, hey, thanks, and here's a little extra something to make your life easier
But
in case you missed it.
but we shouldn't look. I and I really I want to say this in a manner that doesn't sound. Look, you remember when I told you that when I came to the platform, I said I gave up a software company, saying, you
Sure.
know what, man, somebody has to make a change, just like you did too. You gave up your bench. I mean, and used our expertise to come onto the platform. So there's nothing wrong with us saying to survive, we need subscribers. The stars come on here as millionaires,
They
and
do
they're
not
not
need
ashamed
your
to put in.
$50.
And they are not ashamed to put everything behind firewalls. I mean, just before I came on, I went to about 5 of the stars to go into their chats, and
Hmm.
every single one of them were firewalled.
Yeah.
Every
Oh
single
yeah.
one of them were
Even posts on notes, a lot of time it'll be where only paid subscribers can comment.
right.
And
And the thing about it is, like I said, and I say this honestly, right? I said, look at my writings, look at your writings, and then do a comparison of what you're getting from the stars as far as things that you can use that makes that feeds your mind. And and tell me if they are more worthy of your subscription than we are. Because you know
I'm
what
gonna
I've
tell
done,
you
Marlon?
something. I'm sorry. Go ahead
I've
and finish.
read them.
I think too, and you touched on this. We have in the last, and maybe it's always been this way, and I'm just
Mhm.
beginning to realize it. But we have a culture of celebrity.
That's the
That is
problem. Yeah.
why that is why you have people who think just because a guy's the richest guy in the world, he can just step in and fix Social Security with no knowledge of the system or anything, right? That is why we have these people equate wealth with intelligence. They equate, I saw this guy on TV and his voice sounds nice. He must know what he's talking about. And um, I think that is why people tend to um, be willing to give a person who I think some folks should know behind behind what you see is now one of these days I'm going to show the audience my setup. It's embarrassing.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sitting in my kitchen. I
Mhm.
got two cats over here. Now, I'm not saying everybody, but some of these folks, it's it is produced, let's just say.
Right.
And at the very least, they have the infrastructure. And what by that I mean, the top flight microphones, the best ring light, the sound system. They have a
Right.
guy that sets their stuff up so they sound a certain way. And I don't know about you. I don't have that. My stuff came off Amazon several years
But
ago.
I, brother,
And
I
I
buy.
write every article, dude, on like a old iPhone 13.
Look,
If
I
I had a
hear you.
laptop, I'm not sure I'd know how to use it.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you. I have a more complex setup because, like I said,
Well, I know because you're doing radio and
I
all
do
that
radio,
stuff too.
etc. Right? But by the same token, it is all independent. All in. I want to read something that Natalie Lago says. She said, "Firewalls are why America's population is so damn ignorant." And I am so in agreement with her. And let me tell you what I did. For a while, the format for all of my content was my stuff is done with video first because it's usually clips from the radio show that I'm able to then, it's a topic that I'm able to go more in
Mhm.
depth in the topic in the essay. So I would give the video a summary of the video as the free part, and then the elaboration of the technical stuff and links and all of that I would put in the paid behind the firewall. And then it would make me sick to my stomach every time I did that. And it was like, I am trying to change. We are trying to change America to be more, as our friend just said, less ignorant, right?
Mhm.
I became less ignorant by the folks who taught me. I want to do the same as well. So I went ahead and I'm like, you know what? To hell with it. I took everything away from the firewall. I just let the data out.
I did the same
And
thing.
that's all. So all my data is free. And I just say, please, please, please subscribe because that's how we survive. Now, the only thing I have behind a firewall is all our all our podcasts. I
Mhm.
process it to clean it up, etc. I would put those cleanup versions behind the firewall. But
Behind
guess
the
what?
paywall. Yeah,
Anybody who
I
wants to see the real thing can always go to the live on YouTube and see
yeah,
it.
I had a similar epiphany, I guess, um, because I never could figure out, well, how much of this do I allow them to read to even know whether they're interested in
Mm-hmm.
hearing the rest. And the way I tend to write is, it's not like you're reading an article in the newspaper. I
Mm-hmm.
like to start off with some context that explains why it is I know about what I'm about to tell you,
Right.
from my background. And it's just kind of my little weird way of presenting it. So if all you read is that, and then okay, now the rest is behind the paywall, it just felt
Right.
counterintuitive to me. And
It is.
so I just put it out there, and I saw someone, and I lost it, but just I see a lot of people are talking about subscriptions. Here's how I do it. It's $5 a month, $50 a year, as it is right now for just really because in a way of the conversation we're having, I just discounted it both ways by I think it's 20%. But there are some people who maybe they read an article and that's why they want to pay, but they don't want to get charged every month. I have a link in my profile that's
Mm-hmm.
like buy me a coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and all of it works. I think you really hit the nail on the head. We're just trying to survive, and
Exactly.
there's and I have to bring this up because because I just was having a conversation in my chat room with one of the subscribers about this. Um, and the question was, how do little folks like us survive if we have these stars, as you call them, um, sort of sucking all the oxygen, the
Mm-hmm.
financial oxygen out
Right.
of the platform? And it made me recall that um, Substack has, and I don't think a lot of people recognize the level of dollars that are swimming around on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so
You
just
taught
one
me that.
example, I'm sorry.
You taught me that. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I don't know how long ago this was, but it's within the last year. Substack introduced a $20 million fund specifically
Wow.
for people who are not on Substack to attract them to come to the platform. And it's essentially a subsidy.
Mhm.
So, in other words,
A
Egberto,
subsidy to millionaires.
to well, if you come here, we'll make sure you don't lose your audience that you might have on TikTok or wherever it may be, Instagram, whatever it is, right? And I understand this is a business and it's funded by private equity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mark Andreessen is one of the, you know, whatever
I
his,
didn't know that.
oh, yeah, yeah. I think it's Sequoia. I'm not sure, but
Right.
but Mark, whatever, one of his interests is an investor in Substack. Nothing wrong with that. This is the system we've got. And what that means is Substack's got to show growth. They've got to show subscriber growth, et cetera, et cetera. At some point, those investors are going to want to realize a profit.
Right.
So I got that. My question of something like that is, you already have the Egbertos, the Marlon Weemses, the other
Mm-hmm.
people who, I don't know if it's a $20 million fund, but I would suspect, I know I would be, I would hope, I wonder why it is they think they have to go somewhere else to find the people to elevate,
Can I
right?
answer that? I think I have an answer, and it's culture. It really is culture. I mean, it's the same culture that believes that the only way to do things are the way it's always been done.
Mm-hmm.
Mainstream media has been successful for a long time. So, so maybe some people in this domain believe that they have to mimic that to gain some level of success.
Well, I can
Not,
tell you the
yeah.
conclusion I came to was similar. just from my personal history in finance. You start up a trading desk, and what's the first thing you do? You're looking for athletes, guys
Mm-hmm.
that can come aboard, that have a book of business, can sit down, plug and play, right? Well, those guys are, if they're any good, they're going to be somewhere else. And so it's, you can, read the trade magazines and you will see such and such team left investment bank A and went to investment bank B. And they got a bunch of money to come there. So that's what they're doing. However, what it ignores is they have an ecosystem of assets that they are not really considering.
Right.
And so I'm just thinking to myself, well, okay, if I am really the number 13 rising, whatever it is in finance, why is it that they don't say, huh, who's this guy? Maybe we should help him get to number 5. Who is this guy that we've never heard of, really? I've never had any interaction with the folks at Substack that I know of. Maybe they're watching me and I don't know. But it just strikes me as kind of odd. And I have suspicions that I can't really verify about why people behave in this way. But why aren't they looking at you or me or uh, look, it's not even necessarily, let's not make it about race. We're both black. So I don't want it to get twisted. I'm saying it it's a two-tiered kind of thing going on here. Why we believe me, it doesn't take $20 million or 20 yeah, it doesn't take a $20 million fund to help guys like me and you.
Mm-hmm.
So why aren't they doing that? I don't know
Well,
the
I
answer.
mean, but the thing about it is we got, both of us, zero help. We didn't ask for it.
No,
We don't want it. We just want equal access to
but if there
everything.
is help to be had,
Yeah.
I
You
would
know,
like to I would like to have some of it, because to get to the next level of where we're trying to go, I'll give you another example, and this
mhm,
goes back several years. Around COVID, um, a lot of journalists were getting laid off, and then
mhm,
COVID happened, and it got even worse. And so around that time, Substack was giving out of work journalists $20,000 advances to get going on Substack.
wow. Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't
I'm
know that
writing
either.
about this stuff, and guys, I don't just say things. I mean, I knew about it at the time it happened, but I'm just saying, what would- what kind of a difference would that make to your business?
Huge.
Huge,
Huge.
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 I mean, I have sort of tongue in cheek just written about how when I go out to my subscribers trying to convince them, hey guys, I appreciate it. I swear I do. Um, at my newsletter, and I will disclose this. It is as successful as it has ever been. I've been on Substack 5 years, and I am on a run rate to make $12,000. I did not start doing this to get rich, but at the same time, I don't know, I'm kind of anal. I like to have the best, the resources to really do good work. And it's a struggle, but I'm cool with it, right?
Let me,
But
let me, let
then
me,
but
let,
then you look and you
mhm.
see, oh, wait a minute, there are resources.
Yeah,
They're just
I
not
get
being
what you're
shown
saying.
to me.
I understand exactly what you're saying. And, I am one of those guys from, I'm from Central America, and for me, it was always a fight. It has always, in fact, if I can just do a little plug, that's the reason I wrote this book here, Tribulation of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Okay.
Yeah.
And because it has always been a fight. But the thing about it is, and you and I never do, Marlon. We always come straight to the point on the subject we're talking about. You finance, me politics, engineering, and healthcare. Now, here's the interesting thing: the issue really is not going to be Substack or the stars. And for those who are just coming in right now, we are talking about the gentrification of Substack, meaning a lot of good
Hey,
reporters.
Gerda, I know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I noticed Carrie Kaufman is in here. She does a lot of great work, and she says uh, I think in response to the comment that I just made, um, and let me just make sure she says, an out of work journalist, uh, talking about, the folks at Substack went after, I assume, who had just lost their jobs because their papers shut down. It did not reach out to journalists who left because we couldn't keep doing bad journalism.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
Huh, yeah, I couldn't
That
let
is
that pass.
powerful. Who is that? Who said that?
Carrie Kaufman. And guys, if you're not
That
following
is
Carrie, you
powerful.
absolutely should be. Yeah,
That, I mean, I can't tell you, you know, oh my God, let me tell you why that hits me so hard. Because
we
I
should
see
bring
so
Carrie
much.
Kaufman in. We should bring her into the
If
chat.
she, do you know how to do that?
I think I do. Let me try
That
because
was
I would
powerful.
really like to.
That was powerful,
You
Kaufman.
keep talking, and I'll see if I
Yeah.
can.
Let me, while you try to bring her in, let me talk to the audience about this. Audience, let me tell you this. We have, Marlon and I have been speaking about this for a long time, and we didn't know if to bring this to the audience because we don't know how some of this comes over. And we don't want it to come over as this is sour grapes or we
No,
don't like
not at
the
all.
idea. It's nothing like that. But what we want to say is that it is that and read the article that I wrote. I think I put that in the chat. Let me put it again in the chat because I think I got the right framing in what I wrote. I hope I got the right framing in what I hope. But it's you, the audience, the subscribers at Substack, that determines the quality and quantity of product, meaning news, information that you're going to get. If stars come in and you rush all your revenue, everybody has a fixed amount of revenue. Somebody may say, I can give 10 $5 subs. I can support 10 $5 Substacks, or I can support 25 $5 Substacks, or whatever. But if the people that are gaining that support are all the stars that are coming in from mainstream media, folks that are already many a times millionaires and
Mhm.
got golden parachutes before they came here, it it changes the Substack community and what we represented, and that is we are. Let me give a prick. Journalism. Those journalists that came over are just that, journalists, right? They get information from the experts, they digest it, and they put it out to you. What Marlon does isn't the middle person. Marlon worked in finance. He ran a desk. That's what he did. So he knows what he talks about. In my case, I do politics. I've been political managers. I've been writing articles and I don't know if you know my coffee party story. Working on constitutional amendments and the whole works. We've done this. We're not talking
Well,
from.
one of the reasons, not to interrupt, one of the reasons that I started writing to begin with was when I left the trading side of the business and moved
Mhm.
to North Carolina. I originally thought that I would end up with, one of the money center banks in Charlotte or something like that. Um, but just keeping it real, I was too old and too black. And so that was that. And but what happened was um, a capital markets research firm whose product I had used on my desk approached me and said, "Look, we've got a lot of in-house talent, talented writers, the best schools. What we don't have is a subject matter expert that can speak from having done it." And that was so I wasn't an employee, I
Right.
was a consulting analyst, and they would come to me and say, "Okay, we've got maybe it's Charles Schwab or Thomson Reuters, whoever it might be, and they want a white paper that discusses um, the landscape for electronic trading in Brazil."
Mhm.
And I knew people in that, so I would reach out to my contacts in those markets, and I'd put together what I thought the landscape was. And then the company that retained me would slap their brand on it. and make me the
Definitely.
author along with the guy who owned the place, who didn't
Right.
write a word. But they didn't
Sounds
want to let
familiar,
me
right?
get out too far, and where I became, um, where I turned into a star. They wanted it to be. Now they put my name here and the other guy, but it was always we did it together. We didn't do it together. But that's how
Marlon,
I
I mean,
started writing.
Marlon, don't let me start talking about capitalism. Please don't do that, Marlon.
But no, I'm just saying to your point. Um, I don't think people recognize that the faces that they see on television are not the experts. They are the people who talk to the experts and
Right.
then try to put it into a digestible, and they dumb it down a whole lot,
Exactly. Hey, I just
right?
showed my book because somebody asked. Not that I was trying to be vain. Okay.
No,
Somebody just
either
asked.
way, it's okay, man. It's
But
okay. Hey,
but
man, if I ever get my book finished, believe me, I'm going to be showing it to everybody.
yeah, well, let me tell you, one of the reasons I started writing professionally was during the healthcare debate. I had learned everything about Obamacare and started talking about. In fact, I used to have a program called Liberal. Well, it was called my stuff is politics done right. This one was called Liberal Politics done right. And what happened is I started on this show talking to people in red states and people that didn't realize their kids qualified for the expansion of Obamacare in their states and all of that. And I never forgot this woman. I'm doing the radio show, and this woman called in, and she was dogging Obamacare and how terrible it was, and she has a kid with this disease and all this kind of stuff. And then when I heard it, I said, "Ma'am, wait a minute, wait a minute. Your son has this. How old is your son? What is your son doing?" And then I said, "Oh, ma'am, your son qualifies for XYZ." And I told her all of this stuff about her son. And she, oh, no, no. And then eventually we exchanged emails. I sent her all the information, and her son was fully covered under the Affordable Care Act when it wasn't, when she had no insurance for her kid. And she became a loyalist from that day on and a
Guess so.
preacher from that day on. And then, I realized, let me tell you something, Marlon. With all the crap that's out there, we make a difference. That woman was listening to Fox News and that woman was listening to CNN. And never in the arguments that they were making, fighting each other and talking about these issues, did anybody individualize something for her to reach or have a contact that she could talk to. And that was powerful to me. And like, damn, we can
Tell you
actually
something
make a
happened this
difference.
morning that I just started doing these live stream events.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know what, a couple of months ago.
Right.
And what I've tried to do, by the way, is I don't have a tremendous audience on here, but it's bigger than it was last year. And I noticed a lot of content creators, typically, at least the ones that I noticed, happen to be Black, Latino, women. These, and I would notice, okay, this person should have more of a following than they do. Let me get this person on my stream,
Mhm.
introduce them to my audience, and also I just think that's what this should be, right? We should cross pollinate as much as we can because I can
Yes.
learn things from other people. And as you were saying, when this is over, it'll generate a recording.
Mhm.
There's also a podcast. It'll also go to my YouTube. I don't really use YouTube that much. This morning I woke up, I looked, and um, I think it was Garrison Hayes.
Mhm.
Uh, I did. He's with Mother Jones, and
Mhm.
he was on here several months. He came on a few months ago, and I was able to get him to come on and do this with me. And because of that, it posted on YouTube this morning. I get a comment from a guy who's in law school in Alabama, happens to be Black, and he says, "Man, I saw this, and if I don't know if you would talk to me, I'd really appreciate it." And he just so happened to be in the same fraternity I'm in, A5,
Right.
right? Anyway, but I was like. wow, I would not have expected that somebody on YouTube would even be looking at this because I just don't think about it that much. And when I, got my phone and pulled it out, and this guy had followed me on LinkedIn, which I never really go on,
Mhm.
and he had written a long thing about what he was doing in
Marlon,
college.
Marlon, Marlon, we're gonna have to get you into using all your tools, man.
I know, man. But I just don't have time because,
I know,
and look,
I know. It's
I'll
hard
just be honest, man. I got like side gigs on top of gigs trying to just
to
live my
survive.
life.
To survive.
Wait a minute. Chardonnay says she happens to be white. I did not know that. No, no, look, we're all friends here, man. I just
But
I just thought it was interesting that some person I this isn't somebody I was going after or whatever. That just happened to see, something that, and I think it's back to your point that maybe this does sort of help some
and
folks in a way.
and I want to because we're coming up on
Yeah,
near an hour, and I like to cut these things in such a way I can put it
same.
on air on KPFT and other places, right? Here's my message and I say this with a whole lot of respect and honor to our Substack community, and that is, let me say this: Marlon and I speak a lot. We have no animosity whatsoever with all the journalists that are coming over to Substack with their audience. That's a great thing. It increases the ecosystem. We love that.
Indeed.
We have no animosity whatsoever towards Substack, the platform. What we want everybody to understand is, in order for a platform to survive with the modus operandi that it has always had, the flavor that it has, the community that it has, we have to feed not just the stars. And the fact of the matter is, the people that need the less feeding are the stars. And I don't say that to be funny, or I don't say that to be disregarding. I'm saying that because in our system, and I do a lot of politics. I talk a lot about economics. I talk a lot about why our economics work the way our economics work. And that is, if you have great credit, you can get as much credit as you want at a very low price. If you have terrible credit, you can get credit at a very high price. So you are suffering. You have bad credit because you're suffering. And because you're suffering, you have to pay a higher price for credit. When I was a kid, when I started my company, nobody loaned me money. I had to use my credit card at 25, 30% back in the early 90s or whatever to fund my company. When I didn't need the money, because the bank turned me down cold for reasons I'm going to go into some other time. You can read my book on why they really declined, etc.
Hmm.
But when I didn't need the money,
That's when it came.
I could get it. When I didn't need it for the company, they wanted to give it to you then. By then, we have a system that is turned upside
It's
down,
totally upside down.
that we always protect and promote those who have. We talk about the tax cuts for the wealthy. I don't want to change the subject,
But
but I want to use it into this context.
the system's doing exactly what it's built to do.
Right. And what I'm saying is, the tax cut to folks who don't need it, we try to take away from those who are the ones who could best use it. And it's the same thing in this ecosystem. But the difference in this ecosystem and Congress is that you're in control, right? And that's why the title of my article that I wrote, that I wish everybody will read, is "The Substack Community Will Decide If We Morph into Mainstream Media." Because
Because
you
if it
decide,
happens, it will be because,
right, of you.
yeah,
You
yeah.
decide if Marlon can continue to do what he is doing and giving you the flesh to flesh type of reporting. If you can come to Egberto off the record and say, "Hey, man, I saw this in your article. Can you go in a little bit further when I send you a direct email," and you get an answer, as opposed to Marlon and I have quite a few followers, and the stars won't answer our emails because they don't have to. They have producers, they have people in between them that says, who the hell is Egberto? Who the hell is Marlon? Nah, we'll only talk if another one of the stars contacts us.
Yeah,
If
you made a great point though, and I hadn't even thought about this. When you look at the array of videos, they're all just talking to each other.
yeah, that's all. I mean, take a look. And the good thing about it is we're all on this ecosystem. I ask all of you that are listening to us right now, go look at the quality of the articles written by the stars. And then please look at the quality of the article that folks like Marlon, myself, there's this, my brother that writes about immigration all the time,
Arturo
Arturo
Dominguez.
Dominguez. You watch the quality, you watch the insight, the lived experience. And what I'm saying is, again, the title of the article, the Substack community will decide if we morph into mainstream media. What I mean by that is your dollars. If you decide to give your dollars to the stars, but not to the folks who you can have access to, that is what we will reap. The mainstream media is the result. Donald Trump is the result of the mainstream media, not feeding you reality. And do you
Harry,
want that?
that's a good point. Jessica Valente. I don't know Katie. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. Aaron Reed, I actually follow, and it's quality work. You know, some years ago, a guy who used to sit next to me on the very first trading desk I ever sat on, um, and I use this all the time. My kids get mad at me, and it's very when you think about it, and it's to your point. You vote with your money.
Yes, you do, and
You vote
it's
with
true.
your money.
And when we elect politicians, we elect them. We voted by supporting them, etc. So what I'm saying, and we got to close, Marlon, because
Yeah,
we're
we
coming
do.
close to that hour. But here's the deal, folks. I want to make a plea to all of you. Support folks like Marlon and myself before, and if you have something left over, support the millionaires. And I say that with respect, with honor, to point out that we are doing the work. I don't know about you, Marlon. I work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. My wife sees me sometimes. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at the videos, I produce the videos, I
Oh, I
cut
know.
the videos,
I know.
I do all of that.
So you don't have like a staff of people doing all that stuff?
Nobody. It's all done with Premiere. I have all the tools. I have a lot of tools that
Yeah.
make things easier. I have a lot of tools. But again, we do the work. We call up the people that we interview. I just interviewed a guy in Pennsylvania who the tariffs are going to have a deleterious effect on him. And he gave a heart to heart with us. It's right there in Substack. You don't get that kind of a detailing. These guys are talking among themselves. Take a look at the videos, brothers and sisters, Substackers, community, and you see what we're talking about. We are out there doing the work. But anyway, Marlon, close her out for me.
Hey, man,
This is your
you know,
chat.
I don't really have a lot to add, and I really enjoy doing this, and I think maybe this is chapter one of a much longer conversation, and
Absolutely.
we'll keep doing this, and as I said, my chat room is wide open. If you and by all means subscribe to both of our newsletters. My DMs are open, so if you
Everything
have
I have is
questions,
open.
yeah,
Everything is open. I want you guys to read the stuff, whether you're paid subscribers or not, because we are trying to make a better America. That's what
we're
we're
trying to
trying to
build
do.
something different.
Yes.
So
Anyway, so
until next time, Egberto, it's always a pleasure, man.
it
And
was my
folks,
honor to be with you,
thanks
sir.
for jumping in and listening to what we're saying. And we will see you next time. Take care.